Recognizes Mark Meadows for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your leadership on this issue. Obviously, as being members of the Republican conference, there is always a very willing partner on behalf of the gentleman from Florida on issues that are pro-Jewish and pro-Israel. I thank you for your leadership. Ambassador Bolton, let me come to you. Would you suggest that there are a number of people in the State Department that are vehemently opposed to moving the embassy to Jerusalem?
Absolutely, and this is a problem at the State Department. I wrote about it in my book that I wrote after I was at the UN, that there are elements in the department who are excellent civil servants who follow the direction of new presidents. There are others who think they should run American foreign policy, and they've been running this issue for as long as anyone can remember.
So, to your knowledge, were any of those people at the State Department elected on November 8th?
No, strangely, and they're not mentioned in the Constitution either.
Yeah, and to your knowledge, when the president ran on this particular issue, do you believe that there were a number of people who felt like there was a reset in terms of our relationship with the Jewish community and finally the United States of America?
Yes, and I think it's a campaign promise that a lot of people paid a lot of attention to. I think it's very important.
And so would you characterize this as a campaign promise that if the president failed to follow through on, that would be a major disappointment to the Jewish community?
Well, I'll just speak as a Lutheran. It would be a major disappointment to me. And
as an evangelical, it'll be a major disappointment to me, and I can tell you that it is something that not only have we brought up with the president directly, I can tell you that he understands the commitment that he has made on this particular issue. Dr. Koploff, I'm going to come to you. There's always one skunk at the party, and so as we look at this, obviously you don't believe that we should be moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Is that correct?
I believe that national security considerations at this time dictate that we should probably leave it in Tel Aviv, at least for another 6 months.
All right. So what has changed over the last 20 years in terms of our national security interest? I mean, because we continue to debate this over and over. Do you know who Erekat is?
I'm sorry?
Do you know who Erekat is? Or Erekat?
Oh, Saeb Erekat, of course.
Yeah. Okay. So you know who he is. So how long has he had his job?
Certainly as long as I can remember.
Yeah, well, it's the closest thing to eternal life here is an eternal job of being able to negotiate a peace agreement between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
All right, so since he has not been successful in over 21 years, and the embassy has not been in Jerusalem, how could moving the embassy to Jerusalem have affected his track record? I mean, so if we move it, do you think he'll be any less successful?
Do I think Erekat will be any less successful?
Yes.
I can't imagine.
Huh?
I can't imagine that he personally will be less successful.
I agree. And so from a national security standpoint, is the Knesset fairly secure?
Yes.
I've been there. It's very secure. So are you saying that we couldn't secure our embassy in Jerusalem? Is that what you're saying? Or you're just saying that geopolitically it makes a national security not less viable?
I have no doubt that we would be able to secure our embassy in Jerusalem the same way that we secure our embassy in Tel Aviv.
I agree. And so what empirical data do you have that would suggest that this would create a national security incident? Because you were just talking, because I find your logic fascinating, you were just talking about how the Palestinians were pushing back against the security agreement, and yet the embassy is in Tel Aviv. So why would, I mean, there's something to the logic that doesn't seem to mesh.
I think that there are a number of issues regarding Jerusalem that affect national security both for us and for Israel. The embassy is one of them. It's not the only one. But in general, as I noted in my testimony, things that occur in Jerusalem tend to be the sparks for...
So you're saying the very presence of a building in Jerusalem is going to create a national security issue?
I think it very well may.
Okay. And you don't have any empirical data to support that. That's just your feeling, being a doctor from Georgetown in political science, right?
Based on the fact that other violent incidents in Israel are generally sparked by changes in Jerusalem, I think that one can assume that this...
Could you possibly be wrong?
Absolutely.
Okay. Ambassador Bolton, last.
Just one quick point. On this question of physical security for American diplomats, I think anybody, probably many people on the committee have been to Tel Aviv. You've seen our embassy. I can only imagine the heartburn that it causes in what we call OBO at the State Department, the Overseas Building Operations Bureau, the Diplomatic Security Bureau. It's very close to a main street. In contemporary terms, we would never build an embassy like that again. Obviously, building a new embassy in Jerusalem would give us ample opportunity to include the most advanced security techniques that we could, and I think our personnel would be safer in a new facility than in the embassy that they currently occupy in Tel Aviv. And we don't need to be reminded of the risks to our people overseas. None of us want to see those risks continued. So from that perspective, which involves American lives right on the front end, I think every consideration argues for moving the bulk of our personnel to Jerusalem.
Well, I agree. December 1st is a critical date because we have another waiver. It would be a great message that this president could send on the 50th anniversary of reunification, that we go ahead and finally move the embassy to the eternal capital of Israel, Jerusalem. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Ice.